Hi, I'm Jon Stapleton with CodeVA, and this is a quick tutorial on logical operations with Twine using the Chapbook Twine story format. Now let's get right into it. So a logic operation is basically this way of having the computer compare two Boolean values, either like values of true and false, and then produce another Boolean value from that comparison. And that's just a technical way to say we can have the computer make decisions based on two pieces of information. It's kind of like relational operations, like which I'll link in the description below for a tutorial about that. And it's especially useful if you're writing if or unless blocks in your stories. And I've got a story here that uses some if and unless blocks. I'm going to kind of use it to demonstrate what logic operations are and kind of go through it with you. So I got intro. It's the first part of the story, and I have two variables, flint and steel, and they're both false. And this is supposed to represent that the reader hasn't found flint or steel yet as part of the story. And in the story, they'll be able to find those items and use them to solve a puzzle. That's kind of the goal here. And then this link takes us to the torch passage. And here's torch. And this is sort of where the action is. I have this variable called found everything. And we're going to come back to that in a second. But right now it's set to false. And this is supposed to represent this is supposed to be a variable that represents if the reader has found both the flint and the steel. If found everything is true, the reader would see this link that leads to the end of the story. But since it's not true, the reader is going to see this section and have these two links. And maybe these links lead to passages that where the reader would find those items, right? I only want the story to show this link that leads to the end if the reader has both found the flint and the steel. That's sort of what the story is saying. You need flint and steel to light the brazier. That's the idea. So right now I only have this one variable, and it can either be false or true. And if you've watched the if and unless blocks videos, then you know that having this one variable allows me to kind of like flip between these two options. I'll test. So if this starts as false, you can see we've got our two links, and they don't lead anywhere right now. There's nothing there to look at. And if I turn this to true, it sort of unlocks the link to the end of the story. I'll actually add something. The end. There we go. Okay. Now what I want the computer to do is to check the flint variable and the steel variable. And I only want the found everything variable to be true if flint and steel are also both true. And this is where logic operations come into play. I can use a logical expression to have the computer do that. A logic expression compares two Boolean values. So, and there are three kinds of logic expressions. There's the AND operator. The AND operator compares two values, and if both values are true, then the expression resolves to true. So in this situation, found everything would be true, and we would see the light the brazier option. So true and true. But if one of these is false, then the variable called found everything will also be false, meaning that the reader would see this option. Pretty straightforward. And this is kind of what we want, except we don't want to use true and false here. We want to use the true and false assigned to flint and steel. If they're both false, then the AND operation will give a value of false and store it in the variable called found everything. If one of these is true, it still will give us value of false. Found everything would still be equal to false. Only if both of them are true will the computer interpret found everything as a true value and unlock that link for us. Right now, flint and steel both start as false. So I'm going to go and test. You can see what I mean. So they're both false, right? flint and steel, both false, so found everything is also false. But if I change flint to true, flint is true, but steel is still false, so found everything is still false, because they both have to be true in order for that and operation to work and to give us found everything is true. Sorry, I have some dogs, they're barking. So that allows us to have two items that the reader needs to find in order to unlock the path. But I don't want to have those variables set at the beginning of the story. I want to have the computer modify those values during the story to kind of give the reader the illusion that they're finding the objects. That's what's going on here. So I can make that happen pretty easily. Let me go in here and repair that. There we go. So we have stairs. You found flint. I'd probably want to write a little bit more there normally. That's fine. You found steel. Great. That's not great storytelling. You should make your stories more interesting than that, but it's enough to get us started. But crucially, I also need to, in the background, set the values of those variables to be true and false. Flint gets a value of true, and steel gets a value of true as well. So now my story is complete, and you can kind of see how this works. I'll start at the beginning. Right now, flint and steel are both false. And so this is the first time I go to the dark room. We have our links. The brazier's unlit. Search the hallway. Now, steel is true, right? Oh, I have to go back. Dang it. I always forget to do that. I always be forgetting that. There we go. Yeah. Once again, so this is the first time. Both variables are false. But if I search the hallway, steel goes to true. But if I return, flint is still false, meaning that AND operation gives us a value of false. But if I go and search the stairs, we find flint as well. Now, both of them are true. And so the third time I return to that iron, the room with the unlit iron brazier, I get the light the brazier option, and that leads to the end. That's logic operations in a nutshell. They allow you to compare two options. Now, there are a couple other logic operators that you might want to be aware of. So this is the AND operation, which gives a value of true if both operands are true. There's also an OR operation, which is two vertical lines, and that gives a value of true if only one of the operands is true. So that would be flint or steel is true, then found everything gets to be true as well. And finally, there's the NOT operation, which only takes one operator, and it just gives us the opposite. So in this one, it would be whatever the opposite of the flint value is. That's not useful for us in this situation. We just want it to be flint and steel. Both, that's exactly what we want. Very good. So that's everything you need to know about logic operations. If you have trouble with this, if you have questions, please get in the comments of the video. We'd love to help. There's also a link to all of some of the prerequisite information that you might need to know about and stuff I mentioned in the video, and also a link to the Twine Trail Guide, where there's a text-based version of this tutorial that you can read, has code examples you can copy and paste, screenshots, all sorts of other resources to be helpful. And with that, I think that's everything. Good luck and happy coding.